Miktas and Mina Taina. Zomer, this guy, one guy says, Ezer Gadol, the claimant, the plaintiff says, I gave you a big belt as a pikadon or something of that sort. The Zomer Ezer Gadol, the other guy says, I only have a small belt, right? Now, yesterday we talked about a menorah shalchios, a menorah which can be extended by adding sections to it. So we said by a menorah, a small menorah, which is part of a large menorah, can be considered by the mikzah since it's minatainos. You could just add sections to make it the bigger menorah. But a belt, you can't make a belt bigger. They don't become bigger by adding on sections, right? Unless it's some unique kind of belt. So therefore, what's the might of a mikzah over here? Rabbi Chia, so says Gemara, Rabbi Chia indeed said something about this case. We don't know what he said. And the Gemara says, one of the reasons I don't know what he says is because we have no clue how to learn this. We're going to say that in this case it is chayav shvur because it's moed b'miktzas. Masisa pliga. Our Mishnah seems sorry. None it says aim nishboin el dover shemitav mishkol minyan. The only thing is for something which is measured, which is weighed, and which is counted. And obviously it's a portion of the measure, the weight, or the count of the larger one. And that does not apply to the belt, again, because the smaller belt, cannot be a part of a large belt. If on the other hand you say is exempt from a shvur, then that's difficult because Masnisa Pliga, the Brisa not here, or the Mishnah rather not here, but in Bava Metzia argues. Because Mishnah Bava Metzia says that Zelmer got of Zelmer Kotan. This is almost a reverse case, but it's a similar case. The story about sale of slaves, and the buyer says, "I bought a big slave," and the seller says, "No, I only sold you a small slave." Now, normally there's no shvur on avodim, so the Moshe explains here that even though there's no shvur on avodim, here the shvur is on the clothes which were sold together with the slave, and the clothes, of course, are metallic. There's a shvur on that. So therefore, the seller says, "I sold you this smaller slave with his clothes," and the buyer says, "I bought the larger slave with his clothes." So in that case, it says, "Yishava amoicha shakotan mochar." That's might have been mikzas, right? Because there we do say that the buyer, the seller, has to swear that he sold a smaller one. Again, it seems like it's backwards, but it's really the case is straightforward. The claimant is the buyer, the defendant is the seller. The seller has to take a shvur that he only sold the smaller slave with his accompanying clothes, not the larger slave. Okay? So in any event, the difficulty is that there it sounds like, even though we're talking about clothing, and obviously clothing is not made sectionally, nevertheless, it sounds like there is a moed b'miktzas. So Rechia said here, we have a question over there where it says chayav. If they say in either of these cases they don't know what was sold and what was bought, then they divide it up. But the Maisa, we don't know how to pass on in this case of a large belt. A small belt is considered to be moed b'miktzas, and is it not? And we don't have any Rabbi Chia with this price. We don't have recorded what Rabbi Chia said about the issue. And regardless of what he said, would have been difficult on him from a source in either our Mishnah over here, or the Mishnah Bava Metzia. Okay, about whether it's moed b'miktzas or not. Okay, says the Mishnah further. You loan your friend money on a mashkon, on a collateral. The collateral gets lost. It's gone. So now the cases are a little bit convoluted. Okay, so you have to house up here. You have to pay attention really well. Not that you don't always pay attention really well, but here it's important. Amarlo, the lender says, I loaned you $1 on the collateral. The shekel yeshava, and the collateral itself is worth $0.50. So how much? What's the difference? 50 cents, right? The loan was $1, and the collateral was $0.50. Valomer, the borrower says, the borrower says, no, you loan me $1. The seller Yoshava and the mashka was worth $1. Now, why are we talking about in the past tense? Because it's lost now. It's lost. Okay? So now, according to the Malveh, even though he lost the mashka, the levy still owes him 50 cents. According to the loivet, he's off the hook because the mashka which you gave was worth $1 and now it's lost. Okay, so in this case, potter. The loivet doesn't have to pay anything. He's exempt. He doesn't have to pay anything. What? How much will chaver love a raya? It's not what he makes us. No, it's chaver hakol. He denies he owes him a thing. He denies he owes him a thing at the moment. He doesn't owe him a thing because it was the mashka was $1. Okay. Says the more now. What's the case of Moedim? It makes us right. A case like that. Sell ABC cholov. I loaned you $1, and if the shekel yashav was worth 50 cents, so you still owe me 50 cents. But Loki Omer, the borrower says, Loki sell ABC cholov. You loan me $1. But it was worth 75 cents. So now I owe you a quarter. So that's Moedim. It makes us. The guy claims he owes him still 50 cents. He concedes he owes a quarter. That's Moedim. It makes us. Okay, so in that case, obviously Gemara says chayev. Mishnah says he's liable. So we see love now important to note actually before you go on the Pnei Moshe notes is going to cut him up in the Gemara that the Malva also has to take a shvuah here because the Malva lost the object. He was a shomer pikadon, right? He was a nifkat, so he has to take a shvuah that he didn't lose it, that he lost it. He didn't steal it, or was not posher and negligent, and so on and so forth. So the malva has to take a shvuah as well. Okay. So, but once the malva takes the shvuah, then the loiva takes the more severe shvuah, the shvuah the rice and moedim biktas. Says more weiter, the Mishnah weiter. Shomer Sacher actually. So he's potter on onus, not potter chayav and neva aveda. Says the Gemara, Selei v'sini love. You owe me $1 on the mashkon. V'shtayim hayoshavet. The mashkon was worth 2. Okay, so now we've turned the tables. Who now becomes actually the claimant? The borrower, because the borrower claiming I gave you a mashkon which was worth more than the loan, right? So you have to pay me back. You have to pay me back $1. V'alomer, the other guy says, "Okay, I'll sell v'sicha a love." It was I loaned you. I loaned you $1. And the mashal was worth $1. Potter. So the malva here is potter because he's not moed at all. He's not moed in any obligation. So the loiva says you loan me $1 on it. Ushtayim shava was worth $2. The lender says, "Lokel, so I loaned you $1." Olav, the chamisha dinoy shave, and the object is worth $1.25. Chai in this case is moed mixas because he concedes they owes him at least 25 cents, right? At least 25 cents he has given back, so he's moed mixas on the claim of $1. Now, miu nishba, who takes the oath? And the name Moshe says who takes the oath first, because obviously it's image before they both have to take the oath. Who takes the oath first? Misha Pikonet, so whoever had the mashkon last, he takes the which is usually the malva, he takes the shvuah first. Shemei Shavazeh, why? Because otherwise we're afraid that maybe the other guy will take the shvuah. The Yotzi Allah es pikdono, and the other guy, in other words, the loiva takes the shvuah and says, well, it was worth XYZ. So then the malva might pull out his back and say, no, it's not, you liar, here it is, it's only worth ABC. Okay, so you make the malva take the shvuah first, so he doesn't have it in his domain. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Neman malva loymar," an axiom. A creditor is believed to say, "Ad kidei mashkon v'sicha," up to the value of the collateral I loaned you. In other words, whatever sum he says, up to the value of the collateral, he's considered to be believed on that. It's kind of like amigo, right? So he's holding on to the mashkon, so therefore he can claim up to the value of the mashkon. Says the Gemara Masisa Amra. Our Mishnah says, it tells us, even the borrower is believed. Well, where do we see the borrower is believed? The Tiyat says, I loaned you, the Malva says I loaned you $1. But Shekel Yashav in the collateral was only worth 50 cents. Shekel Yashav. Hello, man, the other guy says, okay, I'll sell you Sunny love. You loan me $1. B'sela Hayashav is worth $1. Potter. He's exempt. Why is he exempt? It must be because we give him credibility when he claims that it was worth $1. Okay? Now, says the Gemara, A certain individual came to court with his friend. Beshuka, not the court. He came to the marketplace with his friend. So he said, train in Libya. You owe me $2. And your mashkos were $2 as well. Amalei said, Chad dinar on a boy mason the boy mesalach. I only owe you $1, I don't owe you $2. Umashkoni shave train dinar. My mashkon is worth $2. So the question is, do we cancel out the loan for the mashkon as the malva wants to do, the creditor? Or do we say no? He's got to pay back the difference between the mashkon and the value of the debt. The creditor's got to pay that back. That's so as is indicated previously. So says the Gemara again. Amalei train dinar libiyadach. You owe me $2. Moshkanach shavei tartin dinar, and your mashkon, which is man, is worth $2 as well. Amalei, so he retorted, Chad dinar on a boy mason loch. I only have to give you $1 dinar. Mashkoni top train teacher to dinar. My mashkon which I gave was worth $2 dinar. So asked the dayan in Ardo. So the case came from the dayan in Ardo. Army, they said, came the Kolama mighty the mashkona top train. That everybody agrees that the mashkon is good for train dinarin, for $2, I guess that was the mashkon. Dinarin achrona yesel avisadi. We'll accept the parameters that, and for the rest of it, we'll look for witnesses in order to tell us exactly what's going on. So it says the Gemara. Actually, not the rest of it. The maximum is $2. Right. Okay. I forgot about the next line of the Gemara. Next line of the Gemara says, "V'lo shama demar Rabbi Yochanan nemana ma'ava k'dei mashkono." That's what's throwing me off. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he's believed to say he's owed $2 because Rabbi Yochanan says you're given. Remember that was the way for Rabbi Yochanan began the Gemara. It's axiomatic. The lender is always believed up to the value of the mashkon. What's the value of the mashkon? $2. So here it says that in this price, in the Maimer of the Gemara before, it said he's got to bring. He's believed on the Malvus believed in that which the Levit concedes that he owes $1. On the second $1, he's got to bring witnesses, right? That he's owed the second $1. And that argues Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, he's holding on to a mashkon which is worth $2. He's believed to claim up to $2. He doesn't have to bring witnesses on it. He only has to bring witnesses on anything above $2, not up to $2. Okay, so that argues Rabbi Yochanan. No? Okay? So Machlok is between this statement, which holds that he needs credibility on any demand over what the lawyer concedes, and Rabbi Yochanan says he has credibility up to the value of the mashkon which he's holding. Okay? So says the Gemara, obviously whoever made the statement, in the case of the Dayani Nardo, The Nardo did not hear the Rabbi Yochanan said that the Mal was believed up to the value of the mashka which she's holding. So Chai Barnash, another individual, Kai Chavrei Beshuka, he was with his friend in the marketplace. Varim Savtani, and he picked up his friend's garment, or there's another gear, so his knife, and he wouldn't give it back. Normally, so he said, Chodeit Stina, this sheet. Novik min Leisadein says, Leisadein says Stina Novik min Yodi. This sheet is not leaving my hands until you pay me the Islech what you have from mine in your hands. So I'm not giving you back your sheet until you pay me. Obviously, it was not a bed sheet, it was like a toga, a tunic, one of those things. So he said, I'm not getting back to you until you pay me. So it says, Aslo Kami Shmuel. It came from Shmuel, this case. So Amalei said, you have to give him back his sheet or his knife, whatever it was. And then you'll come to court. In other words, give it back to him first, and then we'll come to court afterwards. Now, I want to say it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing court. It really makes no sense. So it's Shmuel Zitayom Nardo said there is no automatic credibility, but here the guy should have automatic credibility because he's holding on to the sheet, so he should be allowed to claim up to the value of the sheet. Make sense? I come and I grab this beautiful Pulse Ambulance sweatshirt off Dr. Spidel's torso, and I say, you're not getting it back until you give me the $5 that you owe me. Let's say it's worth $5. Question that, but let's say it's worth $5. Okay? So Shmuel said, no, I have to give you back the jacket first, the windbreaker first, and then afterwards we can talk about how much you owe me. So Gemara says, the Kasha Rabbi Yochanan, because according to Rabbi Yochanan, once I'm holding on to the windbreaker, I should have automatic credibility up to the value of the windbreaker, which is $5.
Yeah, but you took it without my permission.
You guys are such brilliant big people. Omar, he said,
But didn't we have in the
Mechavet Yerushalmi.
Didn't we have that you're allowed to go grab, Basin allows you to go grab?
Basin didn't allow it here.
Oh.
He went vigilante justice. Omar, so he said, Taman Huchsa Kamashka Biyado. There, where it's holding out to the mashkon legitimately, he can claim that to the value of the mashkon. Here it wasn't holding on to the mashkon legitimately. Okay? See? Isn't that like a teretz? Shmuel said, Shena Shavuos Zatza Mi Beneim. This is actually going back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that, we asked who takes the Shavuot first. So Shmuel says, I'm learning this on Shet HaYisrael, the Rishbaz and Moshe both learn it differently, but what he means is that, the Shavuot never moves. You always have to have a Shavuot. And sometimes, if the Malva can't take the Shavuot, then the Leva takes the Shavuot. If the Leva can't take the Shavuot, then the Malva takes the Shavuot. Whoever's supposed to take the Shavuot first, if he has to, skip it. You have to skip because he's questionable or he's suspect on Shavuos and things like that, then we're mahapich the Shavuot. We make the other guy take the Shavuot instead. Okay? So this Shavuot is always there. There's no way you ever forego a Shavuot. Shavuot must always be taken. Okay? So as the Shavuot says, the Shavuot is always among the two of them. It never moves from among the two of them. If the Malva can, if the creditor can take the oath, raise an Ishmael Naito. He takes the oath and he takes his money. If the borrower takes the oath, he gets back the object he took as a mashkon. But no matter what, somebody's got to take the oath, and whoever takes it, he gets the advantage thereof. Niwa Nishba. However, generally speaking, as our Mishnah said, who takes the oath? Me and Misha Pikona, so the person who's holding on to the object. Rav Reish Lakish, Ram Rav Reish Lakish both said, Armei al Reisha. They said concerning the first case in the Mishnah. It's actually, it's the end of the first case, I think. Seli Elusini Olot. You loan me $1 on the mashkon. Ushtayim Shava, but the mashkon was worth $2. The seller says, Loki Eluseli Visicha, or the creditor says, I only loaned you a seller. That's true. The seller Shava, but the mashkon itself is only worth a pruta Well, it's only worth one selah, potter. So he's exempt from paying back. What's that? So I'm more what I thought the Gemara was trying to say, and then we tried to over me. I'm not sure. Let me go back a minute. Rav Reish Lakish both said al Reisha, that when it says I'm still not sure what I wrote here. Let me try it again. I don't know. Rav Reish Lakish both said Amri al Reisha. They said in the first case in the Mishnah, sell Vicinio love, you loan me $1 on the mashkon, Ushtayma Yeshav was worth $2. Valom, and the other guy says, it was worth $1, I loaned you $1 and it was worth $1. Potter, he's exempt. The Malva is exempt from paying back, even though the other guy claims that the mashkon was worth more than the loan. So what's the chiddush here? Rav and Reish Lakish are both telling us that although
that's not really the case of the ratio.
No, it's the safe of the ratio. It's the second case of the ratio. I totally forgot what I tried to say this is. I can't even understand what I wrote here. What's this? Got it. Okay. This is the case. Case like this. What the Rav Meshul is trying to tell us like this. When it says Mihu Anishva Misha Bikon Etzlo, Rav Meshul is trying to tell us that line, who takes the shvua, the guy who's holding out to mashkon, that applies even if there is no shvuas moedim b'miktzas. But for example, in this case, the Lova says, I loaned you, I borrowed from you $1, but the mashkon was worth $2. The Malva says no, the mashal is worth $1. So he's a kofer hakol, right? Because he says I don't owe you any money right now, whereas the Loiva says you owe me $1, right? So in that case, he doesn't take his own shvuah moedim b'miktzas. He wasn't moedim b'miktzas, but he does take the shvuah of mishat b'ikon etzlo. He has to take the shvuah that he doesn't possess the mashkon anymore. That's what I said. The Misha Pigumiu Nishma Misha Bikon Netzel goes even on the case of Moedim Mitzvahs doesn't apply. Because the Mahav was tantamount to denying everything. Nevertheless, the shvuah that he's not holding on to the mashkon, that he must take regardless. Okay? That's what it means. Let's do the menshvuah. That's all Rav and Reish is trying to tell us. Alright? Now, concerning the continuing weiter in this vein. Right, that's what I'm trying to say. The potter means you're potter from moedim and miktzas, but you're chayiv in the shvuah, so you're not holding on to the bikadon. That's what they're trying to say. Okay? So the Seli of Lisinio Love, now it should be Mushnayim Yoshaveh. There's a new case. Case not in our Mishnah. The case is case like this. The borrower says the Salavicinio love, you loaned me. Okay, the borrower says you loan me $1, and Shnayim Yoshaveh, and it was worth $2. The borrower says you loan me $1, and the mashkos was worth $2, so he's demanding, right? He wants $1 back because the mashkos was worth more than the loan. So if Allah Omer, instead of Chuli, that's what it should be. The loiva says, you loan me $1, the marshals were $2, you owe me now $1. Va'alomer, the lender says, I don't know how much it was worth. I don't know how much it was worth. So Rabbi Bo B'Shem Rav and Rav Huna B'Shem Rav Amri, they said, Ant leis yoda, ahen yoda. You don't know, but the loiva knows, so therefore you have to go by what he says, right? You don't know, but he knows, so it's your tough luck, and therefore you have to pay him the $1. Okay? Now that's the conventional way of learning it. The way actually the way the Or Sameach learns it, he learns it differently. He says that it's as if it says, instead of saying Ant, he changes the verse into Ana. And he, Ana leis yoda, ahen yoda, he reads it like this. Ana leis yoda, ahen yoda. The malveh, this is the part, not this part of the malveh's defense. So what's the conventional way of learning this, that this is the loveh's offense and it works. Okay, the malveh doesn't know, but the lover knows, so you have to go by the word of the loveh.
It belongs to the lover originally.
But the Smith says the exact opposite. Says what it means is I the malveh don't know. This is the malveh's defense. It says I don't know. Ahen yoda, you know. Meaning who had the match going last? The malveh. That's the malveh. What usually says the conventional way of learning. The loiva says I had it. It's mine, so I know how much it worth. The Sameach says punkt fakir. This line the malveh says I had it last. I don't know how much it's worth. You know how much it's worth for a chutzpah. You have no idea. So you see how they learn the line exactly the opposite. Now, based on that, you learn the next line opposite. Rabbi Yeshua to be Rabbi Yeshua the Rumya, not the Yuma. Rabbi Yeshua the Rumya, Boa Kumi Rabbi Yoni Esper and Rabbi Yona. Talmud Atomar. Over there you say Leisat Yoda, Ahen Yoda. In the case, this is a case of actually it should be the word Leisat Yoda, Ahen Yoda Potter. This is talking about a case of I demand from my friend $100. And he says, and the friend says, I don't know if I owe you $100. So what's the halacha there? What's the halacha there? No halacha is over there? I demanded you $100. And you say, I don't know. Bari v'shema. What do we pass by Bari v'shema? We pass him not Bari Adif. Need chas motzu chaver lavaraya, yeah. Claims are not enough. So he passed. So that's the shaila. How come over there Bari v'shema la Bari Adif? But here we say Bari v'shema Bari Adif. You got to pay up. What's the difference? It is. Why is it two different cases? That's the question. Why is it two different cases? So so says the Gemara. Again, Taman Amar Leisat Yoda Vain Yoda. In that case, is Potter. The Gata Maracheni, you say that here you say he's liable. So again, the conventional way of learning is like we just said a moment ago, right? The loiva has credibility. How come? Says so. The way the conventional way of learning, the next line is Taman Yesh Chalos Shavua. Taman, of course, means in the Yerushalmi here. Here there's a shvua, right? The Malva has to take shvua and he cannot. Shvua's be gone. So therefore he loses. There's no chalos shvua. Thereby, the case of the Bab Metzia, there's no shvua to be taken. If there's no shvua to be taken, so therefore over there he's potter, right? The guy who's shema doesn't have to know anything. The Malva's got to take a shvua over here because it's a nifkat. Nifkat's got to take a shvua. There, the guy who's a shema, the defendant doesn't have to take a shvua. What shvua does he have to take? He says, I don't know. Doesn't have to defend that, so therefore he's off the hook. He doesn't have to pay. That's a conventional way of learning. The Or Sameach though learns differently. The Or Sameach learns that here the reason why the way he learns like this, let me see if I can remember now. The way he learns like this, he learns chilu kipshuto here, and he says tamon, which means over here, yesh chilu shvua. Yeah, he does. The way he learns is over here. There's a chilu shvua, meaning that the malveh. Yeah, we don't allow the malveh to swear. Why don't we allow the malva to swear? Yeah, but that's not why. No, we don't allow the lovet to swear. That's what it is. We don't allow the lovet to swear over here. Why allow the lovet to swear? Because if he swears, then the malva produces he says, oh, I take an oath. My mashka is worth $2. Remember, we said before, if one guy can't take the oath, the other guy takes the oath. So the malva can't take the oath over here, doesn't, let's say, but the lovet should take the oath, right? So we're afraid if the lovet takes the oath, what's the malva going to say afterwards? What's he going to do? He's going to produce it and say, gotcha, you said that this lousy pen is worth $2, you liar, you. That's a chilul shvua. So here we don't allow the lovet to make a shvua in order to collect, because we're afraid that the shvua will be, desecrated by the malva, then proving the mitzius to be the opposite. But over there's no such chashash, because there's a straight claim and counterclaim. I claim $100, you say I don't know, right? So there's no fear that there's something that's going to be produced. So therefore, the bori guy can take a shvua there and collect. That's what he's saying based on that case. So it's saying again, according to the conventional way of learning, the conventional way of learning is that there's a chalo shvua. There's need for the malva to take a shvua, since he can't take a shvua, so therefore he loses. There's no need for the defendant to take a shvua, so therefore he doesn't lose. There's no chalo shvua, so therefore he doesn't have to pay up in the case of Bor B'Shema. The way the Bar Samech learns, it's the exact opposite. Over here, the loiva would like to take a shvua, but we don't let him take a shvua because we're afraid that the shvua will be nischal. So therefore he has no shvua, he has no tool for collection, he doesn't collect. According to there, however, if the alleged creditor wants to take a shvua and collect, he can do so because there's no way that we're afraid that something will be produced as evidence against him later on, and therefore he can take the shvua without fear of chilul, and therefore he takes a shvua and does collect. Okay? So those are two different ways to learn this Gemara. Alright. Anybody takes a shvua in the Torah, generally they take an oath and they don't pay. In other words, shvua is a tool the Torah gave to avoid payment. More the guys who take a shvua and do pay and collect payment. Okay, when a shvua, basically what they're saying, shvua is usually a defensive tool. But there are times that shvua is an offensive tool. Okay, when it's an offensive tool, these are people who take a shvua in order to collect, which to be on when they're on the offensive. Hasarch, an employee, a nigsa, person from whom an object was stolen, another person who was damaged. Or a case where a case where the other guy is suspect, the other guy to take a shvua is suspect to make a shvua sheker. Because a storekeeper on his ledger, he takes an oath, period. Now, how does an employee take an oath? They say, give me my wages, which you're holding on to. And the employer says, no, Sati, I paid already. The employee says, Lo natati, I didn't get it. I raise an ishbay, takes an oath, and he collects. Right? Remember, it says that that's not enough to generate a chiv shvua. Sometimes the chiv shvua is when there's a little bit of a moedem and mikzas. How does it make a little bit of moedem and mikzas? How so? Armalos says, give me the $50 I own by you. He says, you got to rate $25. Oh, but he's moed b'mikzas, because he's moed that he owes how much? 25. So moed b'mikzas to rate as a shvua. Okay? It says, my master shneim, I said, shvua Hashem, tiyeh beit shneim. Steht doch in Pasuk. It says in Pasuk, shvua got to be between the two of them. Between the mafkin and nifkad, I want to say. I don't think that's the case, though. Anyway, what are the shvuos in this week's parsha? It says which would be treated the two of them. So, ain't on the Yodim, though we know if that's case she'im, take out the word lo, put the next line. Shemi shava lo yishalim. Is it obvious that oath takes the place of paying? In other words, when I have to tell me, call nishboim ve'enim mishalim. It says, then in the pasuk, shvuos Hashem tiyeh b'shemei shneimim lo shalach yadom im lechus re'eyu. Right, so that's the case. So the Shavuos Hashem takes the place of payment, right? So why does it tell us? They have to tell us explicitly that the master gets the money or the oath and not the shvuah. In other words, the other way around. So it says, what it means is the following. It means it tells us a tremendous chiddush. The way the Rebaz explains it, that once the Torah allowed somebody to take a shvuah, and he took a shvuah, or Karjan take a shvuah, he took a shvuah, what if Edom come against him later on? They come and say, you lied when you took the shvuah. Doesn't matter. Shvuah stands. He took the shvuah stands. Okay? That means he's off the hook, whatever they charge him with. That means Shavuos Hashem Tiyeh B'Shneim means it stands between the two of them. Even if the Edom come later on, the Shavuos Hashem remains once it was taken, a repudiation even of witnesses. It's an amazing concept. I don't doubt the Bavli says such a thing, right? Because the Beed said actually there's a time which Shavuah becomes stronger than Edom. Seems like a logical impossibility. That's what I was suggesting here. Yes?
The Edom are not considered someone, and they're just pushed aside?
Yeah. Just like the Shavuah counterattacked the claim, it's a preventative measure against the witnesses coming along. Right, exactly. I don't know if that's the case. You think so? That we just bar them to testify?
I don't think what they unlocked over the basement.
Maybe. Okay, could be. I'm willing to accept that. Anyway, be that as it may, now Rabbi Chagai, let's look in the bottom here. In the Gillian Ephraim, because the Gears is messed up in the next 5 lines. Says the Gemara, it should be in the instead of Rabbi Chagai right away, should have cut and paste from B later on. Now the Kem Shkiv will see the Gillian Ephraim, and the Kem Shkiv will Bailim, Shvuah Upohu Pater Milshalim. Rabbi Yasser, Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yasser, Rabbi Yochanan, Divrei Rabbi Meir, according to Divrei Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir, Miklau Mimashma Lav Atashomea Hein. From the negative, you hear the positive. V'lokach ba'alav v'lo yishalem. The master takes the oath and he doesn't pay, and he doesn't get paid. Ha'im lo yishavah, but if the guy doesn't take an oath, then Yishalem has got to pay. Rabbi Chagai, boy, call me Rabbi Yochanan. The Chagai from Rabbi Yochanan asked Rabbi Yochanan, why is it true only according to Meir? Even like Rabbanan, it's true. Rechina said, Hakom moedim. Everybody concedes b'lashon Torah that by the language of Torah itself, you derive the opposite. From the negative, you derive the positive. What's the machlokas? B'lashon bnei adam. Machlokas is only in language that people use. Rabbi Rabbanan machlokas kedushin by its nai. If I make a condition, a stipulation in a get or any other document, do I have to put in both the positive and negative clause, or can the contract assume that from the negative you derive the positive and vice versa? So Meir says you only have to write one side. And Rabbanan say you have to write both the lav and the hate, both the positive clause and the flip negative clause. But that's only says that we're over there between two people. But by a Kodesh Baruch Hu, there's no such issue, right? So that's what it means, that even Rabbanan, if you took the Shvuah, you no longer have to pay, right? Because the Shvuah takes the place. Because it says, Shavuos Hashem Tiyeh B'Shem Lo Shalach Yado B'Mlachas Re'eyu. I'm sorry. That teaches us that if he didn't, the opposite way to say it, if he doesn't take the oath, then he has to pay, right? Because it says if he takes the oath, you don't have to pay. So this is right that if you don't take the oath, then you do have to pay, and that's true even Kohen Rabbanan. Because in the Torah itself, everybody agrees to infer positive and negative. It's only in contract law that you might have to stipulate both sides. But in Torah, everybody agrees that it's stipulated. Okay? Now, get out to the Gemara. Tiny Rabbi Chia. It says in the middle of the page, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines to the bottom. Tiny Rabbi Chia says, Masne Shreimer Chinam Liya B'Shermer Soch Lios G'Shol Shol. Now the Ritbaz he has no idea what this Gemara is doing here. It says here Shermer Chinam is allowed to make a stipulation with the Baal Bas that or Shermer Socher that the level of nature of a Shmir will be downgraded. He won't be chayav like a Shermer Chinam, which is limited, but rather be chayav like the much more voluminous potentialities of the other Shermer to be chayav. Now, why is this brought down? Yishat Yisrael Taka erases it. But it seems to me that this is a prelude to the subsequent Gemara, which actually we skipped 3 lines because the Shagil and Ephraim brought it down. But there's Rabbi Avin. Rabbi Avin said, "Ayidei Shabal Bais Iska Merubin." The halacha is that we're allowed to change the Torah's precepts when it comes to the Mominis. That's why Shomer Chinam or Shomer Schar can agree to be like a shoyel, and so too. Listen, according to Intero, Shavuos is defensive, but Chazal were Misaki. Because the employer, he has a lot of wheelings and dealings. Tiknu b'socher, so they made him a takona by an employee. They could take an oath and collect his wages. However, the Kavasah. However, there's a flip side to that. Similarly, now they made all this up as they went along. They made this up. But they are allowed to make this up because the Chia says, you can change the nature of Choshen Mishpat. You don't have to go by specifically what the Torah says. So it says the Gemara, in other words, when does the employee have the right? This employee cannot work in yeshivas. They don't work in yeshiva. If he didn't make the claim on the day which his salary was supposed to be paid, he loses his right to collect with the sole credibility of a shvur. He'll have to bring Eidim later on. But if yeshiva is supposed to pay January 1st, right, and then they don't pay, so then, according to this Gemara, the employee is only believed if there are witnesses that on the right day, on January 1st, you claimed to him. Once you made the claim on the right date, then you get infinite extension. Meaning, the credibility comes anytime you decide to take the shit. Okay? But you have to make the initial claim on the first available day. Okay? Says Moram Rabbi Yosef, says, not true. He argues. He says, it's either it's Rabbi Yosef and Amori Ard Rabbi Chi and the Brisa. Okay? You find that over here. Ein lo ela, it should be connected also in Bavadi. It only has corresponding that day. Rabbi said, when do you transgress low soli? Do you remember when you transgress low soli? And when do you transgress not paying wages on time? If a guy works for you today, when do you transgress? That night. If a guy works for you tonight, when do you transgress? Next day. So the Shai Tersol changes this Gemara to reflect that. Says Gemara, Rabbi Yonan Amar Yitzbal, Rabbi Yitzbal, Rabbi Chanina, Rabbi Shlokish. Moses, Rabbi Yitzbal, Chanina, Rabbi Shlokish. Chanina wants a Tava Bayoim. If he demands his wages today, Ein Lo Ela, it should be Laila. He only has a night, meaning he can only his Nemonis ends that night. Okay, like Rabbi Yossi said, he's only got that wage period. Ein Lo Ela, I changed the word Yom to Laila. Laila, if you work that night, Ein Lo Ela Yom, he's only got the next day, right? Again, the time limit when he's believed is the same time limit as which is the time frame in which he should be paid. Okay? He doesn't know this extension periods of it up to an entire year. Says the Gemara, the Charon Amar, the other said, B'shetavai, that even on that day, B'shetava, when is he believed against Babas? B'shetava v'amar nasati. When you claimed against Babas, and he said I already gave. On that you can take a shvur, you lied, you didn't give, I take an oath, and that's it, he's got to pay you. Okay? However, Avli Omar lo etain, if he says to you, I'm going to pay you, well, I'm not paying you right now, I didn't pay you already, but I said I'm going to pay you, so in that case I say, Chazaka nosan, it's a chazaka that he already gave. It's a fascinating thing. If a guy said he's going to, if the Baal Boss said, I'm going to pay you, so he we say Mistame is going to keep his word. It's interesting because the date he's not going to keep. That from he's not. But if he promises, then that promise he'll keep. You see?
Yeah, so what's the time limit?
No time. What?
Promise, there's no time limit. It's open-ended. He says he's going to pay him. When? The next day? The next day?
Today he's going to pay him. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. In other words, since today, we assume today he's going to pay him, so the worker's not believe the next day anymore. Because it's the overpowering assumption that he did pay on the first day.
Well, he's supposed to pay him on the first day anyway, so what's he saying by what's he accomplishing? He's saying, I'm going to pay you. He's supposed to do that anyway.
Yeah, so but Mara is saying that his verbalizing it gives it more strength in his eyes. Okay, so we don't need a shvuah anymore. I don't understand why. And, I'm sympathetic to your position on this matter. But that's what it says, right? I'm not making it up. So that's what it says. We believe that he's going to give you. I assume, I assume he said, I'm going to give you today. I'll give you today by the end of the day. So we believe him in that case. Okay? We believe the employer, right? And when it's going to come back to this in a few minutes. We didn't know who said what. That which said name Rish Lakish. If the work of the man's during the day, Ein Loela again it should be Ein Loela Laila. He only has that night. Laila, if he works during the night, Ein Loela Yoim. He's got only the next day. Heavy, so since Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Baruch and Rish Lakish said this, Heavy Esachina must Rabbi Esachina is the one who drew the economy Damar Bishatavo, Damar Nasati. That the workers only believe to say I already paid. Avalomar lo ete. But if the storekeeper said I will give chazok us, and then we give him a chazok, they actually gave properly. Now, even though normally we say you only have the employer, only has the employee only has the power to shvuah during that time, that immediate time, there's an exception to that rule. Now I'm going to learn this more according to Beckhofer because I don't like the way anybody else learns it. Okay? The big day sheish on Yerushalmi. So the way we're going to learn is like this. What's case? Tavo, you demand him and he said, no, it's you demand of your employer. Say to the employer, you pay my wages. The employer says, it really should be a marti l'chor. I didn't say, did I not say to you, that I'm going to pay that day? I paid that day, meaning the employer asked whether he could pay late. The employer says, I want my paid wages. And my pay day already passed. So the employer says, don't you remember I said I'll pay you not today, I don't have the money today, I'll pay you X day. Right? And X day I paid you. So in that case, the Lev is still believed. With the Shvuah, he's believed. X day was well after payday. Until now we said the Leva's belief expires at the end of payday, right? It expires at the end of payday. He only has that day to make that claim. So says the Gemara, Osa Yom, that day, Nasa Kmishu Esmol Nosin, Nasa Kmishu Esmol, Nosin Lo Shir Echad. It becomes as if it's, let me go to Shir Echad means. Yeah. No, Nasa Kmishu Esmol, it's like the guy claims he paid yesterday, that we give the employee one period of time, meaning, a day and a night or a night and a day, to now be believed. It comes out much better if I say it outside. It's really very simple. I'm confusing you. The logic's like this. An employee has nemonis on the day of payday. Once the day of payday passes, he loses his nemonis. First of all, the Gemara say lose it because Chazal made that kind of that way, but there's a logic to it. Logic is, Mistama employers pay on payday. So any time until the end of payday, the employee has the credibility to say, I wasn't paid yet. But by the end of the day, he loses that credibility. Okay? That's why if the employer said, attain, I'm going to give you later today, so then the employee had better make him take his oath before the end of the day. Because the employer said, I will give you by the end of the day, so then, you know what, in that case, at the end of the day, the employee loses credibility. Okay? Now, it means like this. Anytime on the day payday, the lawyer says, the employee comes to the employer and says, pay me. The employer says, I paid you already. The employee says, no, you didn't. The employee is believed. And the employer has to prove that he already paid. If the employer says, I will pay you by the end of the day, so he's allowed to, because till the end of the day he has time, right? And the end of the day, the employee better chaparah in the last moment and take his oath, because afterwards they're not believed, because I say Mistama the employer paid. But what if the employer concedes? He says, listen, I know I didn't pay you payday. You know I didn't pay you payday, right? We made a deal. I told you I'd pay you in a week, right? And you agreed, and I paid you in a week. I paid you then. Then the employer doesn't have credibility. Because there's a chazaka, an employer pays on payday. But if the employer himself concedes it didn't pay on payday, he just claims that they came to an agreement, he better have proof that he had this different agreement. He better have a receipt that he actually paid the guy. That's what I'm saying. And therefore, if he claims that, then we look at it the same as if an employee says, oh, payday's today, I paid you already yesterday. What do we say to such an employer? Hagwash! You prove that you paid him yesterday. Because it's a chazaka, you don't pay until payday. People don't pay within their time. So too, you say you paid, may it came an agreement that you're going to pay him later. Let's see the proof of that agreement. Okay, it's very logical. When it said it inside, it didn't come out right. Let me just read it again. So the grace like this, Tavo, he complained of Amar, he said, I told you I'll pay a week later. I paid a week later. Also ayom. So it says more that. I'm sorry, no, not. Sorry, no, Nasati also ayom. Says more nasa k'mishu esmo. It's as if he claims he paid the day before payday. No slow shirechon. The employee now has 24 hours, one time period, day and night, in which he's believed from now. In which the moment the employee says, "Oh, I paid you a different day," employer said, "I paid you a different day." For that moment, it's as if it's payday all over again. He's got 24 hours of credibility to say he wasn't paid. The employer better show some proof of this. Okay? Well, whatever. If you pay, up to 24, right? It's Yom V'Laila, but it's 12 to 24. It depends when you finish the work, right? Finish work at the beginning of the day is it's 12 to 23.5 seconds.
By the employer saying, "I'm going to pay you next week," the clock stopped ticking until next week. No. Yeah, but that may be true, but this is not talking about now. It's talking about a week later the employee comes. Yeah. In other words, the clock. Then the clock starts.
Right. Right, exactly. Okay? From the moment the employer concedes he didn't pay on payday, even though he claims he paid another day, right? And they agreed on that, since he has no proof of that, the employee now has 12 hours to 24 hours to go take a shiur quickly and succeed in demanding payment. Okay? Now, it says more again, hiktim lo schola. Same thing if the guy says, "Oh, I paid you early." Right? That's like, "Master, I paid you early." Yeah, baloney, you paid early. No employer pays early, right? Bidor nishba v'noitel. Same thing. In this case, the employee takes a shiur and takes. Let's say the Baal boss didn't pay, and he said he gave a mashkon to the employee, right? So b'dor naita below shvua. So like Rav Yochanan said before, the creditor is believed up to the value of the mashkon. Here too, the employee is believed without even a shvua. Hoya eved. What if the employee was an eved? That's interesting. This is a paid slave, right? That's like a Shiva Rebbe, a paid slave. So so he's a paid slave. So there's a paid slave, but he's not believed in the shvua, because slaves are not believed with shvuas. So who takes a shvua then? Right? So we said before, It says Moray Eved, based in most in shul of Eved, does based give a shul to Eved, or a chashud, what if the employee was a lowlife, suspect, a lie? Based in most in shul of chashud, does based give the shul. So who actually makes the shul in that case? Who acts the shul? The Gemara doesn't say, but actually the employer has to take a shul. Has to take a shul that he already paid. In other words, even though that's what you said before, the shul is always ben shneim. If one guy doesn't take it, the other guy takes it. So for some reason the employee can't take it because he's an eved or a chashud, then the employer takes the shvur that he already paid.
And then what if the eved takes out his money and says,
Right. No.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the evid's, it won't work. Says more. Hayish name chashud. What if they're both suspect, right? The employee and employer are low lives, right? Tifluk is Rabbi Meir, so it's machlokas Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yossi, and machlokas. Hayish name chashudim. If they're both suspect, chasor shvulim koyim adiv Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, all right, so the shvul goes back to the eved or to the chashud, right? And he has to take the shvur. Now, I'm not sure in that case. It's going to come up later on, and I actually didn't look it up in the Mishnah later on. Rabbi Yossi says the shvur goes back to the original guy, and I forget what happens then. The Gemara is going to argue what it means on Lam Vav and Beis. The shvur goes back to the Eved or to the Chashon, but the Gemara is going to argue what that means. According to Meir Achloku, Rabbi Meir says they divide up the money because since neither one can take a shvur, so therefore they have to divide it up. Now, Pshita, as the Gemara says, Pashin Meis Ba'abais, and Ba'abais dies, Hasachin Nishbal Yershav, then the employee takes an oath to the heirs of the Ba'abais and collects. Va'afilu Meis Hasachir, says the Gemara, even if the employee dies, Yershav, his heirs, Nishbar Yershav Ba'abais, his heirs take an oath to the heirs of the Ba'abais. Says the Gemara, Klum Tikla B'Sachir Shemar B'Yershav. I understand. Did they make such a takana? They made such takana by the employee. They make it by his Yorshim? And the Gemara doesn't answer that. The Allah is in fact though that they did. Says the Gemara, the Gemara doesn't say anything here, but the Gemara is in fact that the Allah is that the Yorshim can take a shvur to each other. Okay? Should I stop here? Yeah, okay, we'll stop here. I could do a few more lines, but okay.